Benjamin, George, and Thomas are not America's founding fathers. Listen, I'm the pimp who built this shit in trust. At every chance, I'm unzipping my pants so I can pour out my penis and piss in your mouth. I'm nasty like that. You are my puppet, and I got you held up by my strings. Keep that gun at your temple. It's simple. I'm the pimp who built this, and I put drug dealers on corners so they can make my money, and I put white collars in corner offices so they can make my money. And while you're out here doing 9 to 5, I'm working overtime to make sure the hungry never get fed, to make sure them colored kids never go to college. Keep that knowledge shit out their head. I'm bad. Lucifer ain't got a damn thing on me. I fucked myself and gave birth to slavery. You thought when they genocided Native Americans they were moving west? Motherfucker, they were moving toward me. They call me capitalism. And I slit throats with dollar signs. I'll tie the American dream around your neck and laugh while you lynch yourself for a dime. Your soul is mine. All your thoughts belong to me.
I just wanted to ask some questions. Do you think, one question in fact, do you think socialism, Russian I mean here, or communism is fit for the African people? Or the African people should create their own socialism or their own communism, something which is very congenial to their own culture, to their own ideology, instead of importing another ideology, Russian, because personally, I do not believe that the Russian socialism or the Chinese communism is or fit for the African people. The African people have to produce, because the Russian socialism, it was for the Russian people, not for the African people, like the NATO, or even to some extent the United Nations. And here I go beyond. The United Nations or the NATO was not for the African people, because they were not created, not motivated by the African people. So I think you have to think about the idea of importing Russian or communism or any foreign ideology to Africa. We have to create from our intelligentsia, for our knowledge, as you refer to it, we have to create our consciousness. Thank you so much again.
Truth, we know, is universal. It must be. 2 + 2 is 4 in China. 2 + 2 is 4 in Moscow. 2 + 2 is 4 in Timbuktu. 2 + 2 is 4 in Athens, Georgia. Truth is universal. Truth cannot be invented. It can only be observed and reported. Scientific socialism is a truth. Of course, in our compilation of knowledge, in our attempts to help assist ourselves remember things, sometimes for the sake of remembrance we may become a little bit sloppy about precision. Let me give you an example of what I speak. We may call the laws of gravity Newton's laws. That is to say, we refer to them commonly as Newton's laws. Newton cannot invent that a body in motion tends to stay in motion unless stopped by an outside force. He cannot invent this. The best that Newton can do is to observe it, and the best we can do is to know that he might have been the first man to have recorded it, written or oral. But certainly, as a baby, I knew that a body in motion tends to stay in motion unless stopped by an outside force when I ran into an object. I say we call it Newton's law, but Newton couldn't invent it, he observed it. So too, we come to confuse socialism sometimes, and the capitalist system, wherever we make mistakes, will aid us in our mistakes. Aid us in our mistakes. Aid us to make them bigger, that is. Yeah. We come to see socialism sometimes as belonging to Marx, or belonging to Engels, or belonging to the Russians, or belonging to the Chinese. Not at all. Just as the laws of gravity cannot belong to Newton, so too the laws of socialism cannot belong to Marx. They cannot belong to Engels. The best that they can do is to properly observe these laws and record them. The best we can do is say, these are people who were the first we know to have recorded socialism or concepts and precepts of socialism. Socialism is a universal truth. Its principles are, one, that the people must own and control the means of production. Number two, the system must be planned properly, and there must be all scientific and technique data used to improve it. Power must come from the people and be emanated by the people. I'm coming. That is to say that socialism in Russia, socialism in China, socialism in Europe, socialism in Africa must be the same like 2 plus 2. It may look different. Its manifestations will be different. There are different cultures. The culture of China is not the culture of Africa. Because they're different cultures doesn't mean that they're automatically antagonistic to each other. Not at all. The culture of Europe, the culture of Africa are different cultures. Therefore, the manifestation of socialism in Africa, the manifestation of socialism in China, the manifestation of socialism in Russia will be different. But the essence will be the same, as it is with 2 plus 2. If we went to China and we wanted to see 2 plus 2 is 4, they will do 2 plus 2 is 4 for us on the hibiscus board. If we go to Africa and we ask for 2 plus 2 is 4, they will do 2 plus 2 is 4 for us with the kauri beads. If we go to Russia and we ask for 2 plus 2, they may give us 2 plus 2 is 4 with wheat grain. They're different manifestations, but the essence is the same. The truth is there. Therefore, we in Africa must fight for scientific socialism. Those in Russia must fight for scientific socialism. And just since no one has a monopoly on socialism, it is not to be assumed that any one country will be the first to arrive at socialism. That one must be clear. And also, since no one has a monopoly on socialism, it cannot be assumed that if one country moves forward and makes mistakes and falls back and even seems to be revising its stand, that's no reason for us to be discouraged. On the contrary, we hold stronger to truth.